Welcome to the Succeeding Over All Roadblocks Lifecast, a show about self-discovery and vibrating higher in every area of your life. Each week, I'll have conversations with some of my favorite people who are soaring over life's challenges. They'll share their struggles, but more importantly, the lessons they've learned along the way. I'm your host, Keisha Whitaker, entrepreneur and transformational speaker. Let's get ready to soar. This week's episode is all about beauty, the beauty of friendship, hardship, growth, and most of all, inner beauty. My guest comes into the homes of people every day living in the Mid-South, but few know her quite like I do. Kontji Anthony is a veteran journalist and lead co-anchor at WMC Action News 5. A native of New Rochelle, New York, Kontji began her broadcasting career at the age of 17 as a host for her high school television station. She has worked for TV news stations across America, both behind the scenes and in front of the camera. Her first TV reporter job was at KTVO-TV in Kirksville, Missouri, where she videotaped and edited her own reports. Kontji then accepted a position as a reporter and anchor at Bakersfield, California's KBAK-TV. Her next broadcasting job was as a general assignment news reporter for Good Day Sacramento, where she also wrote reports for the Stockton Record newspaper. Before accepting her position with WMC-TV, Kontji was the morning and noon anchor at WMC-TV in Greenville, North Carolina, where she also worked as a radio news commentator and hosted the local DIY home improvement show, Do It Yourself Eastern Carolina. Kontji is a graduate of Howard University's School of Communications, a member of the Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated, the National Association of Black Journalists, and the National Academy of Television Arts and Sciences. Join us for one of our brunch time conversations about career, her upbringing, and how she is overcoming a devastating loss with grace, poise, and dignity. Please welcome to the show the incomparable Kontji Anthony. Hey, Kontji.
Keisha Whitaker. I am so honored to be here on your podcast. Wow, I'm so excited and happy for you.
I thank you so much. I couldn't think of anyone more that I would want on. You've been my friend for several years now, so there's no better person I could think of to have on the show. I want to dive in and just talk about some of the things that, you've been through in your life and experiences and your career and how you do it all. And most importantly, how you do it all with such poise and grace and humility. So let's jump right in. I've always been curious about this. What is the origin of your name?
Okay, so my name, it actually is derived from the word beautiful in Amharic. So my father he loved to study world leaders, specifically African, the African diaspora. So, Haile Selassie led Ethiopia for years, and his daughter, I believe, was named Konjit. But you know how ethnic folks do. My dad took the T and put it in front of the J. So you know how we like to remix names.
Right.
So that's what happened.
It's so beautiful. It's so unique. And it suits you as being, an anchor in the news world to have that name that just stands out that people will remember. So you're just very memorable in that way.
You.
Let's talk about how we met. Do you remember?
Oh my gosh. And I'm so sad that when that restaurant closed, we had a 10-hour breakfast. No, it was 3 hours. We were supposed to have breakfast. Literally. And then 3.5 hours in, I'm like, we're still hanging out here? I'm like, my coffee's cold. But
that's
it was
how I knew. That's how I knew you were going to be my friend. I was like, she's going to be my friend. She didn't even know it yet. But we just sat here for 3 hours and just chatted like we knew each other forever.
It was so, yes, it was amazing. I was like, what an incredible, you were telling me about your travels, how you were with the Olympics, and, I was just like, what else did you do? I mean, you've done so many things, exciting things in your life, and the fact that you love travel. We just had a lot in common, and, as far as really enjoying people, just exploring the world. So I was so like, I was immediately like, wow, this is a dynamic human being.
The whole purpose of the lunch initially was, I was a PR director for a government agency. And so a part of my job is, meeting with media folks and building relationships and all that. But I don't ever go into a situation thinking about what can I get from this person? I want to genuinely build a relationship with this person beyond what they do. And so that's how I approach all of my relationships. And I was just so elated when we started building that type of friendship and just started hanging out more and going to brunch once a month. And like, it just became like a natural thing. And so I am just honored and blessed to have you in my life. And the more I learn about you, the more I'm just like, okay, she is the real deal. And
thank you.
Yeah, I'm just excited. I'm just so excited. Let's start with your upbringing. Tell me what kind of child you were.
Okay, so I have 3 sisters, and so it's 4 girls, and like we would be out places and, people would be like, are you guys sisters? Or like, all of you? You're all sisters? It's because we all have strong personalities, so we're all talking, and it's just, it's really hard to be in the room with all 4 of us. But my mom is from Lorman, Mississippi. Her dad was a pastor and civil rights leader. And she grew up on a Mississippi farm and went to Alcorn State University. And then my father is from Nevis, that is in the Lower Antilles east of Cuba. And it's a British Virgin Island, predominantly, you'll find Caribs. And, when Columbus brought Africans over, Africans are there. There's a large contingent now from India, but it's just like it's an ethnic island. But it's like this place where all of like Nevis, British, famous people in royalty go there. And it was Princess Diana's hideout. So before she died in that wreck. But anyway, so they're both kind of like there were 35,000 people on my dad's island. And my mom came from this small town. So they have these values, that are kind of small town values. But they met in Chicago at Ebony Jet. My dad was in the computer department. He was fixing the computer stuff. And then my mom was Robert Johnson's executive assistant for a very short period of time. And then I found out she was like, oh, yeah, well, I used to read the articles and proof them. I'm like, so you were a copy editor. So I just found out my mom, who was a top business communications, she's a teacher on the college level, that she was actually a copy editor at Ebony Jet, but she didn't have that title. I know. So it was she wanted to teach though. So she left and went back to teaching because she's like, that's what I want to do. So anyway, if you can picture those two coming together and then having us 4 people. We grew up in a place called New Rochelle, New York. It's about 17 miles north of Manhattan. It's halfway between Connecticut and the Manhattan city of Manhattan. And so I had the best of both worlds where it was just lakes, bunnies, and streams where I grew up. And then my class field trips would be like, oh, we're going to go to Broadway. Oh, we're going to go to Statue of Liberty, and it's just so I just had this really incredible exposure with small town values. So it was, and so I went to high school. I did Catholic school, half private school, half public. And then I went to Howard University.
HU?
HU? HU?
No.
Ain't no party like an HU party. That's what they used to say. So anyway, I went to Howard University, and a historically Black college and university, and loved DC. And so that was just great. And then that was when I kind of learned that I liked TV, but not in front of the camera, just behind the scenes. I just loved broadcasting, the equipment. But I also, in high school, actually, that's really where I figured it out. We had a TV show called Views from the Bridge, and I did the worst host interview that anybody could possibly do. I was stiff-necked and I didn't when I turned, my whole body turned, it wasn't my neck, it was just and then I'd be like, okay. Well, I would look down. It was so bad. I need to find it. But when I did that, I said, this is the first thing I actually really like, and it uses all of my faculties. So that's why I went into broadcasting. But so that's the gist of it.
So after HU, you studied communications and did all that good stuff. What did you do after college? What was the first gig you had?
Well, I wanted to write sitcoms, but what had happened was something else. so I was having trouble finding a job, when I got out. And my mom, one of her students happened to work at WCBS in Manhattan, the local CBS station in New York City for the tri-state area. So anyway, I went in. It was several interviews. I had to go through all these people. And then I sent a thank you letter. Okay, I didn't hear anything. I heard nothing back. And 2 weeks passed. And I was like, oh no, I sent the thank you letter. And literally 2 days later, I got a call from the news director. And so I really think people really appreciate handwritten notes. So that was like a little lesson that I learned from that. And then I got the job and I was a gopher. Like they used to have scripts, like paper, and I would have to there were different colors. So each anchor would read a different script. And then the producer had another script, color script. And so it was like white, pink, yellow, gray, and then the teleprompter person had to run the script in a machine. So I had to rip them and put the anchors in order for the color of when they were speaking. So I would do that. If they were like, go down, there's like Bobby Brown, the makeup artist. She's down in the lobby. Bring her upstairs, So that's what I did. Or like, run these in here. And I'd be like, ah. And then they started asking me to go out and conduct some of the interviews. So then you'd see my hand and the microphone on TV. My hand was on TV. I interviewed people like Rudy Giuliani, Donald Trump, the Archbishop of New York. I'm like 20, I'm just out of college and these people are letting me go out here and talk to these people. So that was really exciting. Yeah.
Well, clearly you were gifted. You were out there in a huge market just starting out. So tell me what happened next.
I got hired full time and it didn't go over well with some people who'd been working there for like 15 years. And so 3 of my coworkers were like, look, we want to be in sports news. So you work midnight to 8 a.m. and that's when no one's there. So we want you to run our teleprompter. So I was running teleprompter for these 3 guys, but one of them, Shantae Anderson, convinced me to do my hair and put on a blazer. Well, he said, you should do one too. And I'm like, I guess, whatever. So I usually wear my hair curly at that time, always like, whoa, wild. And I blow dried it and I put on a blazer and red lipstick. And then I did this whole, they did my teleprompter. And then one of them walked my reel into their news director's office when they got a job. And then all of a sudden I get this phone call and I'm like, okay, so I'm going from New York City to Ottumwa, Iowa. So I went, there's like a pig farm there. It smelled like bacon once every, few days or so when they were, cooking up the pigs.
Yeah.
A lot of gun ranges, rolling hills of Iowa, beautiful sunsets, grilled cheese, just very middle America.
So it was like a huge culture shock.
Yeah,
a huge culture. Yeah.
People were like, you're the first Black person I've ever talked to. I'm like, I believe it.
Did you feel a sense of, because I've been in that position. I went to, coming from a predominantly Black town and high school and, and college was, kind of getting a bubble. So my first internship was with U.S. Bobsled in Lake Placid, New York. So I lived at the Olympic Training Center there first. It was definitely a culture shock, but it was such a great and rewarding experience. And I made some great friends that I still have to this day.
It was different for me. What my best friends, for example, my little clique, there were 4 of us. And so one was French Jewish. We were all first generation Americans. We had one parent who was fresh off the boat, as they say. So my dad was fresh off the boat. So I'm Caribbean. So we had Jewish and French. And then we had, my other friend was, Japanese and Jewish. And then my other friend was German. And so we literally were like the United Nations up in there, it was just, and so I had so much, such a wide range of people for, my mom would make matzo ball soup for my friend Valerie. And, my mom learned how to make Caribbean food for my dad. And so we just had, and then Italian, I had Italian friends. And so when I went to Iowa, it was more so the cultural aspect of middle America that I had never seen before. And so, just kind of like the types of things, like, like pickup trucks. They don't have them in New York like that, unless you're like on a work truck. So just like little things that, everyone had one there because they were, I guess they were hauling stuff. So
right.
It's just
farming and whatnot. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, exactly. So it was just different. Mm-hmm.
So the only difference was while I was there, like I said, it was amazing. It was fun. But I maybe had this internal pressure to feel like, I need to be a representative for Black people. So those who have never come in contact with a Black person, they can say, well, Keisha's not like the stereotype. You know what I mean?
I know. Okay, that is the hugest thing is that, when you're the only Black person in the room, you all of a sudden become like the president of all Black people. You're like, I know. Mm-hmm. And then, so I used to have the pressure. And finally, I was like, look, I'm just me. I'm not either going to take it or leave it. Either you like me or you don't. And this is what I think. And this is, who I am. So I had to give that up. I had to just give it up.
Yeah. I will say Sister Girl never came out. Like, never.
That's so funny. Yeah, you guys like held her at bay.
Yeah, I had to keep her in. And
do you think it's celebrated now more though?
I think I felt like they might not be able to understand me if I started speaking like really Southern. I was like, they probably won't, because when Southern people, all their words just slur together.
Yeah.
So I was like, let me just not give too much Sister Girl. And but no, it was a great experience. And like I said, I would not trade it for the world. And I probably wouldn't have had the future experiences had I not been exposed to that environment. So,
but bobsled, that's so cool.
Oh, it's so much fun.
So
my God. I rode in a bobsled like 80 miles an hour. So much fun.
My little alarm was going off to say, put on your makeup. Because it's like, I have a promo that I shoot every night. Okay, so let me turn this off. It's just like, that's the thing about television is you have so many deadlines all day long. And, so the only way that I can keep up with it is to put it in my trusty calendar.
So when you started out, you were in California, I think North Carolina or South Carolina?
North Carolina.
Okay. And then you came to Memphis. And so you've been here ever since. How was that trajectory for you? Like, did you see your career going in this direction?
Well, no, I mean, I never saw myself on TV, but, at all. So that was the whole thing. I don't even know how this happened, but, I did study. This is what I studied. I studied communications, TV, radio, film. And, part of it was journalism. We had journalism classes, and my teacher was a Washington Post writer. So, yeah, I really thought I was going to be here 2 years because I had a 2-year contract. And then I literally fell in love with this city. And I don't want to go anywhere. I mean, I want to die here. So I just I was like the little engine that could. I was just this reporter, and they did not know what to do with me because I was, I don't know. I was a little naive, I'll be honest. I'd worked in towns where they'd be like, okay, now go down to the fair. They didn't say it like that. They'd be like, go to the fair and you're going to that's your story. It's like, and it wasn't like, so here there's content. I mean, there are complexities, there's poverty, there's layers upon layers. And this is just a complex city to envelop. But once you get it, you get it, that's Memphis AF, and I can see it right away. And I'm like, ooh, that's so Memphis. So anyway, I then became a city hall reporter. And I think when I did that, I didn't know that I thought politics was enthralling. But I loved watching democracy play out loud and to see each person in each council position be a microcosm of their district. And it was so strange because even when I would watch one council member, leave and then another one come in, they said the same things. It was just like, you're the same person, you just look different, And so it was just like, it was fascinating to just watch our government. And, but I think that opened the door to me really meeting a lot of people who make this city move. People who, and some people so I remember, I was a city hall reporter and like Mayor Strickland was a city councilman, and then it's like, and I remember interviewing Police Director Rawlings early on, and he was like over some training thing. And I look and I'm like, wait a minute, now I'm the main anchor at Channel 5. I'm like, this Strickland is the mayor. And I'm like, and Rawlings is the chief. I'm like, all like kind of
like grew together.
Yeah, like even though. Yeah, I know what you mean. I don't know him like that, but
I mean, y'all came up together. It feels like that, right?
It does. Yeah. To me, it does. Yeah. I stayed with it. I had a lot of, it was bumpy. It was not easy. I had to grow into journalism more and more. And I still think I'm still learning, honestly. After 25 years in news, I still feel like I really don't know everything.
I mean, we're learning and growing every single day. And the way news has changed and the industry has changed, I mean, you have to change with it. So, yeah, absolutely.
Like that, what you just said is such a good point. Okay, so right now, this is my studio that I'm in right now. My fake studio. It's at home, right? And it's where I had to set up these lights. And, there are some people around the nation in journalism who, you'll see like kind of a lot of the younger people setting up their studios because there's a big technical component to this. Like you have to learn how to set up your space. And so when COVID happened, I mean, like I have probably learned like 15 new apps, and there's this huge learning curve and it happened in a really short period of time. And so, I have to learn how to use this live view to project the live images to the station so that the viewers can get it. My audio, I had to, we had to work on that. And then just like getting the proper lighting in here, because honestly, when I turn off the lights, I look like I'm in a cave. So, yeah. So it's, it was a great learning experience. And now though, I could literally go anywhere and set myself up anywhere now because I know exactly how to do it. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's the beauty of some of the stuff that came out of COVID and being in quarantine and having to adjust and adapt has made us so much more, even though from a human connection perspective, we're not as close as we used to be because I miss you. I haven't seen you in person in months, but
I'm glad we took in that game at FedEx Forum, that Grizz game.
Yeah. That was so much fun.
Yeah, that was fun. That was right before COVID took over.
Yeah. So, I mean, now it's like we're able to go anywhere and do anything. I can do a podcast from my closet of clarity.
That's good for sound.
I know.
Your closet, it cancels out the echoes.
Trust me, I have researched this to the nth degree. Like I know about all kind of how to block sound, how to create a studio.
And you guys should see, she has a microphone that looks like is it like lighting up or something?
Yeah, it's lit up.
Oh my God. That is so fly.
So people know I'm on the air, okay?
It is turning colors. It is like, that's fancy, man.
Yeah, I'm trying to do a little something, girl. So, yeah, you were talking about just how things have changed with journalism. And, I'm a journalism major too. My only regret was I did not take broadcast courses, but I did, focus on PR. And so we worked together on a number of stories where I've pitched things to you, and it's just knowing what a reporter wants, how they want the story, and, making it useful to the viewer. And so I love working with you because you make it easy.
You make it easy because you map out, you kind of like, okay, so here's the thing, like, it's almost like if you were to break down what a story is, the anatomy of a story, for example, there has to be an issue at hand, and then you have 1, 2, 3, maybe 4 sides to this story. And then you have research, you have data that needs to apply to it usually. And so Keisha, whenever you would come to me, I would be like, oh, this is, she has it all right there. I'm like, she did the research, and then it's like, it's good research, and so you pitch solid news stories. So you're the one who made it easy. all I had to do was
thank you.
put it on a plate and bring it into my news director's office,
If I want my story covered, I want to make sure I give you everything you need to do it and make your life easy.
Right.
There's no sense in me saying, oh, no, like spray and they call it spray and pray, like send out this pitch and see who covers it. No, no. Yeah. I know who I want to cover it. I know who's going to do something good with it. And I'm always going to pitch something that's fair and objective. I mean, yes, I have a client or I have, whoever I'm representing, their best interest. But I also want to make sure that it's fair because I'm a journalism person, too. And it comes from, having written magazine stories and news and sports and, all this stuff. So I know what you're looking for.
Yeah. I mean, and I know, because I literally saw it in action. So it was just a breath of fresh air. So thank you.
Yes. You're welcome. You're quite welcome. So back to you and talking about kind of your career and your trajectory. What was one of like the best stories you've ever done?
Ooh, I think one of the most fun stories I've ever done was and I wasn't even supposed to do it. So I have a problem with heights, right? And I've tried to do everything to try to get over it, but I just don't like it. Okay. So boom, I don't like it. Okay. I just decided I'm not going to let it stop me, but I just don't like it. So I was filling in one day and I got this. They were like, whoever the reporter was going to go up in an F-16 fighting Falcon, like a fighter jet. And so I went to, Mojave Desert. I was at Andrews Air Force Base, I think. And I went and I spent the whole day there, right? And so there was his last name was Zeller, and everybody called him Fuzzy Zeller because for the pro golfer, just as a nickname. So I was with Fuzzy and he, they took me through all this training. They were like, if the jet explodes, eject yourself. Like, so I had to do all this training. I had to pretend to jump out of a parachute. I mean, they had me do all this stuff. And then I go up in it and then he's just like, okay, we're going to do a refueling in air, in flight. And he was like, okay, we're going to break the sound barrier. And I'm like, and then he was like, okay, we're going to just be 200 feet above the Mojave Desert going like full speed in a fighter jet. And it was like, we were like, anyway, it was so cool. And then he was like, what about a fighter jet roll? Like upside down? I was like, no. I was like, nerp. I'm like, no, that is where I draw the line, right? But no. So we're going, and then all of a sudden, he just did it. And I was like, it wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be. But it was just, he was just like, there are people on this base who've been begging me for 2 decades to get into a fighter jet. And so I felt it was just like, I never would have done that unless I was a news reporter. So that was so fun. Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Okay. So because what I've noticed, and like a lot of professions, police, news, you're dealing with a lot of different stories that are coming at you that are always like, some of the most difficult things that you have to report on. And that can take a toll on you. So how do you keep your peace when you have to report so much negativity or death or, those really sad stories?
So early on, I used to call home crying. There was I was in Iowa and there was a 13-year-old girl who took her life. And ugly cry. I called home after I got home from work and I was like, she was, just like, you couldn't understand what I was saying. And then my mom just she listened to me. And then this is what my dad told me. He gave me a tool that I could use. He said, okay, I want you to imagine when you're going out to do these stories that there's almost like a chimney, like there are bricks all around you as a barrier. And he said, but just put a window in it so that you can see out, but just don't let it come in, And I was just like, he was trying to think of everything to just console me, and try to get me to, figure out how to be strong. And I realized that people won't know about these things unless there's someone there who feels it and is compassionate, but is going to take themselves out of it. There was one time I did a story about a man he was killed by the ATF. I get to his memorial, and it's at a park outside, and there are several people with swastikas tattoos on their body. Like, I'm an African-American female, and I was just like, okay, I can either make this about me or I could tell this man's story. And so, you know, when I went and interviewed his friends, they said the most kind and wonderful things about him. And that is what the story was. It was not about me. And so when I realized that I'm just a vessel, I think we're all vessels, period. But when you're a news reporter, you're supposed to be Switzerland, you know, and you're a vessel and you are not to put your opinions in things. And so I just try to be a vessel and try to let it flow out and to just keep being joyful. And I work with really, really good people. Like, oh my gosh, my coworkers, I mean, like Joe, Ron, Jarvis, you know, they are, you think you like them, but if you knew how amazing they were off camera, sometimes I look up and I'm like, God, how did you allow me to have such wonderful people around me? And so, you know, that's just so wonderful. Yeah. So that helps much.
Joe is the truth, okay?
He's a saint.
I mean,
he's a saint.
I have been, you know, I grew up here, and Joe has been on ever since I can remember, like all my life. So, you know, and I've met him several times. He is so wonderful. Jarvis, of course, Ron. Yeah, everybody's dope. At WMC-5, everybody's dope.
It's so true. It's so true. I feel so blessed. So blessed.
So I remember when you got the anchor position in 2016. And at that time when that position came open, it was like, it's Team Kontji. Like, we want Kontji. We want Kontji. Like, everybody was like, there was like a thing going around on social media. I was rooting so hard for you. I was like, you deserve it. You would be perfect for it. And you got it.
I was shocked. I didn't know what was going to happen, you know, because they were just trying me out. And so, you know, I was just filling in, and I don't know, they might have been interviewing people. I do not know because, you know, but it was several months. And then finally I got the call and they were like, we're going to announce it tomorrow. And then the newspaper came out. I'm like, for me? You're doing a newspaper article on me?
Yeah.
So it was, and that's how I knew, like, it's not often that, I mean, I knew how it felt when someone comes out to do a story about you. So that was interesting. And then the other time was when we all lost power and we did our newscast from a cell phone. Because I've always been like a huge social media person. Like, I just love social media. I don't get on there as much as I used to because my time is really split. I spend so much time doing the behind the scenes stuff that anchors do that I don't get on as much as I used to. But at that time, I was doing Facebook Live all the time, and it was a lot of people didn't. And so when we lost our power, I went right on and I was like, and we just started doing the news. And then the person who was over the web came in and she turned on their thing. And so Channel 5 went live, and it was actually so exciting because it was this new thing that we knew we could do. And it was just watching this. And I'll never forget this one time, for example, like just doing this for so long. I was out covering a court case, and my whole career, I used to have pads and paper and pens, and I was writing my story on my cell phone, and I looked over, and there were the three other reporters from every station. We all had our iPhones where we wrote our stories and we were doing our live shots from it. And I was like, this is a moment. I was like, this is a moment. And it gave me chills, to just see that. And now with the pandemic, this is that next moment. It's a whole other thing,
So tell me about your best celebrity interview.
Who was my favorite celebrity interview? I don't even know. They're just, oh my gosh. Of course I know. Rosa Parks.
Oh, nice.
Rosa Parks. She was in California and she was at an appearance. They were celebrating her for Black History Month. And they let me do a one-on-one interview with Rosa Parks.
How was that? Like, oh, you just like...
I was just looking at her. She was so tiny. I was just so surprised at how little. And, I'm just like, this little person had such a worldwide and loud voice by her actions. And so it was just one of the proudest moments of my life, honestly.
Yeah, the tiniest
Rosa
people.
Parks!
Yeah, that's amazing. The tiniest people make the biggest impact.
Yeah, they do, don't they?
Yeah.
Tiny little people.
But I'm sure that was like, I can't even imagine sitting in front of that much history and just the legacy that she left behind. Like,
yeah,
wow.
I couldn't believe that this job was allowing me to say something. She heard it and then she responded. Whoa.
Yeah,
so huge.
I think
so huge.
My best interview was Robin Roberts.
Oh,
she
wow.
She came to the University of Memphis. I was writing sports and she came to speak and I was like, oh, I'm covering her. Nobody else is covering her. It's all me. So I go to the event and she's kind of hanging out in the, just outside way before the event started. And so I went up to her and started talking. At that time, I was eating, sleeping, and drinking sports all day, every day. I talked sports all day with the guys. So when I went, and I used to watch her all the time on ESPN. So I went up to her. I said, hey, I'm a reporter for the paper. I write sports. I would love to interview you. And she granted me that interview without hesitation. And she was so nice. And then at first, I don't think I was supposed to interview her, but she was like, no, it's fine. And they put us in a room.
What?
And yes, they put us in a room together. So I'm sitting across from Robin Roberts and I'm like, okay. She's like, what's your next question? I said, well, I asked you all my questions in the hall. I was going to wait to hear you speak and, write some more about that. And she says, well, what do you want to do? And I looked and I said out loud, I said, Robin Roberts asked me what I want to do. And she was like, yeah. It was so cool. And so from there, we sat and talked. I said, I want to work in the NBA. I want to be a GM. I want to do all this. I had these major dreams, Kontji. And she's like, oh, I know people in the NBA. I was like, yeah, I know you do. So we just hit it off. And she ended up becoming my mentor after that.
Wow.
So yeah, whenever I would call her, she might not answer right away, but she would always call me back. Like always, always, always.
How cool is that?
It was amazing. It was a great time to be young and a writer and all that good stuff.
Oh my goodness. I love that story. And it's, I just love hearing that she was nice to you too,
Oh, she was amazing. Like so down to earth. And also there weren't a lot of Black women doing it, it weren't in sports, weren't writing, weren't doing. So it was just, for me, it was like the road less traveled yielded like huge results. So I just loved everything about her. And I was like, and then when she went to Good Morning America, I was just like, oh.
Like that, because she's up there,
Yeah, yeah. I wish I still had her number.
That's funny.
But I remember you interviewed John Legend when he was here for the Freedom Awards.
Yes. See, that was, oh my gosh, he was larger than life. When somebody walks into a room and the molecules kind of change a little bit. And I also noticed, when he laughs, it's almost like he's singing and it just projects across. It's almost like we're in a church and there's an audience and you could just hear just the star power in his voice, just laughing. And I was like, whoa. So that was such a treat. Not only because, he's a musician, but he is up on current events and that kind of thing. I just like when people are engaged in the world. So
I have a John Legend story too. I met John Legend when his first album came out. I lived in New Jersey. I was living in New Jersey. The first song, I Used to Love You, like that was hot at that time. That's how long ago this was. And me and some of my girlfriends, they went to Princeton and I worked for the Ivy League. So I lived in Princeton. And we're like, oh, we're going to Philly for I don't even know. It was something at the University of Pennsylvania. So, John's a graduate of their Ivy League and all that. So we didn't know what was going to happen. We just knew it was like going to be a party. And so we roll up in there.
That's how it always starts.
Right. John's in the band. We're in like a ballroom at a hotel. There's no chairs, there's no nothing, but the band is set up. Well, he starts playing. We all pull up chairs and just sit there and listen. Like I pulled up a chair and sat in the front, like I'm going to listen to John Legend. And it was so amazing. And he was doing all the songs that he had did for other people, for Jay-Z, for Slum Village. Like it was so amazing. Then afterwards, he just greeted fans. He shook hands, took pictures. I took like 2 or 3 pictures with him, girl. I was all up on him. I was like, hey, John.
One more.
And this is what's funny. So his brother, super cool guy, he invited us to come up to the suite they were in because like we were in a hotel. So I looked at my friends. I was like, do y'all want to go? And they were like, yeah. And I was like, look, if it's on some groupie stuff, we're leaving. Like I'm not.
I'm not going to be a groupie.
Right. So we get up there and the background singers are up there. He's doing an interview. It's like super cool. And so everybody was so nice. And we sat down because it was a huge suite. It had like 3 rooms, like 3 separate rooms. Right. So we were in the middle room. We were just sitting there chit chatting. And one of the background singers gave us a drink and we're just chilling. So when he's done with the interview, he comes out and sits with us. And he's just talking like, who won the game today? And this, I mean, just mad regular, like just super cool. So
Wow.
we had so much fun. And then all of a sudden, like we had all of his attention. And then finally, like people start coming up, like from the party. The room got so crowded. And I was like, y'all, it's time to go, I think. So we, said our goodbyes. And I remember telling him, I don't know why I said this. I was like, don't change.
You know what? That is the biggest compliment. That is a huge compliment.
Yeah, because he was so amazing as he was.
Yes.
Yeah. But it was fun. It was so much fun. But yeah, I have a ton of celeb stories too, but another day. But what I want to talk to you about, why I really wanted you on the show, was you have something special about you, something unique that I love about you.
Yeah.
And I think it's your inner beauty. As beautiful and gorgeous and fabulous as you are, y'all, she is so, so beautiful. Like breathtakingly beautiful. Your inner beauty outshines your outer beauty. And that is saying a lot.
You are just the nicest. That is just so, thank you. Oh my gosh. Thank you. Oh my.
Don't cry.
I won't.
Okay.
You are too sweet.
You're just amazing. So when I'm around you, I feel like you won't let me say a bad word about myself. You see the beauty in everyone. You love everyone. You have just this inner glow. And so I wanted to talk about, how do you glow up with your inner beauty? How do you make that shine so bright? I mean,
Wow.
I've never heard you say a bad word about anyone. I've never, like, your energy and your spirit just breathes life. And when we're out and people recognize you, it's like, they're like, hey, Kontji girl. They're just like, it's just
this is the nicest thing. I really think, honestly, compassion is the thing that I learned from my father, and empathy. So my dad was the type of person where he got us a ping pong table. Like we were like, we want to play ping pong, please, 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 please. So he gets us a ping pong table and we use it for like 6 months. We are like on it. Well, all of a sudden we fold it up and it's in the garage on the wall, on the side of the wall. And when we stopped using it, one day, it was probably like a year later, we're like, let's play ping pong. And we go downstairs and it's not in the garage. And we're like, what happened to our ping? He gave it to a community center. He's like, it's not going to sit there. Or, he didn't say, oh, you know what, it wasn't like a scolding or anything. It was just like, he knew that this item was not being used by us and that there were kids who could really enjoy it. So he donated our ping pong table. I remember my eldest sister her baby had just grown out of, became a toddler. And so I was going to mail her stroller to my friend who just had a baby. But that friend was not in need. I just was like, there's a stroller here. Do you want it? And so then she was like, yeah, why not? So anyway, we're driving down the street, and this was, you've been to Atlanta, Old National Highway, 279.
Yep.
So my parents lived in Georgia for a minute. So he sees this woman all the way on the other side of the street. She has a baby in her arm, one arm, and she has 2 other kids, and they're walking, like holding hands. She has them holding hands. So she had 3 kids, no stroller. I didn't see it. He knew it was in the trunk. And all of a sudden he just like peels over, like stops, in this parking lot. And I'm like, what are you doing? He was like, he didn't have enough time because she was walking. You know what I mean? So he just like opens the trunk, grabs the stroller, starts flagging traffic, runs across. It's like 6 lanes, right? And then he brings it over to the woman, and she like puts her baby in there. I want to say she might have put one like on the lap, like, I don't know, something. There was something. But to see him do that all the time, my entire life, what it is, I think, is you have to live a life outside of yourself. Like, it's not about you, it's about everyone else. And that's why we're here. And so when you see people, you can see what they're going through if you actually pay attention. And, I find, honestly, some of my people that I know who struggle the most are absorbed by themselves. And it's so wild because the ones who live their life outward tend to be the happiest. And it's very interesting. So my father and his compassion and his empathy and him just caring about people, it rubbed off. That was yeah. So,
I see that in all that you do, because even as an anchor, even as a news person, you're still doing that when you're not on the air.
People don't know that every second you're off the air, there's a need. Like, most of what I do is help people who don't understand how to get answers, to find answers to challenges they're having in their day. There was we just had that storm where, there was this East Memphis elderly couple. The daughter called and was like, there's this wire hanging down. She's like, and we don't know what to do. And and she was like, they don't have phones. Their cable is out. And I was just like, let me call somebody. And then, they just didn't know how to maneuver the system, because sometimes things are online, but they're not completely explained. So anyway, most of my time is spent doing that. And then every now and then something becomes an actual story, because, I might get 5 story proposals per day from people in the community. And most of those I end up saying, well, let me just tell you what I know you could do. And it's only because I did the city hall beat, and we're constantly, when you're a reporter, you're constantly trying to call different people with different offices. And so you kind of understand the system. So I feel like that's my duty. And it's why I'm here, really. And then the broadcasting thing just happens to happen. So, yeah.
Well, it all goes together. I would say, I think the qualities that I see in you, kindness, integrity, humility, modesty, just an outpouring of love and compassion for people in general.
Oh my gosh, don't make me cry. Stop.
I know it sounds like I'm just
trying
buttering you up, but it's so true. I'm not trying to butter her up, y'all. She is that amazing. But those things about you are what make you a great journalist. And then the skills that you bring to it on top of that. So you are a Memphis treasure. Okay.
I'm the lucky one. I mean, I have said this, I don't know how many times, but Memphis is really the best thing that ever happened to me. I grew out of my shell. I just learned so much being here, and people have been so good to me, and I just love it here.
So let's talk about, we have to talk about a roadblock. That's what we do. So we've heard how wonderful you are, just where you get it from and how you use that in your career and in everyday life. But we all go through challenges. So share with me a time where there was a roadblock that you kind of came across and you're trying to solve.
I really, really put my career before my personal life, just like everything has always been my job. And so I really started late with regards to, starting a family. And so, gosh, I've never shared this, but I had a miscarriage when I was married, and it was literally the worst moment ever because I was already on the older side. And so it was devastating. And I knew that I could have, if I had just made that a priority sooner, that maybe, I did not save my eggs because it just wasn't being done like it is now, So, and then, you're a broke reporter, my first job, I made $12,000 a year, $1,000 a month.
Wow.
So yeah, that was just really a devastating time for me. And I wish I could tell my younger self, save your eggs, 1, and 2, start earlier, just start a little earlier. So that was really just probably one of the lowest points. And then, I just think, I'm still kind of processing it a little, but it was, yeah. So I do regret that.
And how long ago was that?
It was in 2018. Yeah, 2018.
Oh, it's recent. Okay. Yeah. So I'm sorry for your loss, number one.
Thank you.
And so my heart goes out to you for that. And what are some steps that you're taking, or have you thought about other alternatives to motherhood?
I just think I need to get over this first, kind of just like get, I need to fully process it because I think it's kind of somewhat new, but like I literally, I worked, I didn't even leave work, I just continued working, and I'm like, really? And of course, duh, I just kept going to work. I finished out my work week, and, just like took the weekend to just do nothing, just do nothing. And I guess I had felt like that was kind of like my last chance for that. But I think I need to just process this a little longer. Would I have the same energy, like if I had done it earlier, you can keep up with your kid, right? Mm-hmm. And so like when you're getting older, it's like, how are you going to keep up with the kid? So there are just those thoughts. Like I was not the type of person to ask my parents for money. Like I was like, I want to do everything on my own. But that's one thing. I think I should have just been like, can you help a sister out?
Yeah.
But I didn't know. I just didn't know,
Yeah.
And my other sisters had kids late. So I just thought it would be fine.
And I think it can be fine, because you're in good health, you take care of yourself. It's possible. I mean, Janet did it at 50.
She sure did.
Yeah. So.
And I'm not there yet. Okay. I'm not there yet.
No, you're not there. Absolutely not. And I don't know. It's a touchy subject because I think about it too. Like, I'm like, do I want to be a mom? You knew for a fact you wanted to be a mom. I'm just still on the fence about it.
No, see, that's the thing. Oh. I didn't know until it was too late.
Mm-hmm.
But, the thing is, I don't think women understand, so men have, I did not think I was going to be saying the word sperm on this podcast, but men they keep producing sperm, they keep producing.
They can have babies till they die.
Till they die. Yeah. But we have a finite number of eggs in our follicles. And every year that it goes, they age with you. And so you need to start earlier when they're in a better position to be, to grow into a baby. So I learned that later, but, it's something I wish I had known, sooner.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So what's the next step for you then? Like, how are you working through this?
Well, what I'm doing is, I'm really focusing on my work. And once again, But, I think that I do kind of share if there are, younger people that I'm friends with, I tell them, I'm like, you better save your eggs, girl, because you just don't know. And so that's what I try to share it with people privately and now publicly. But it's something that I try to encourage younger women to not walk in my shoes in that way. And so I think other people could, learn from that. And so I think that's what I'm doing with it right now. And who knows what will be next. But I just kind of, like I said, I want to process it and get through it. And then, I know it's like 2 years ago, but it's still, so.
No, it's your time frame. It's what you deal with. Grieving is always a process, and it comes in what, as my therapist told me, it comes in waves. It's like an ocean at high tide or low tide. So, and I've been experiencing that, with losses that I've had. So, we just have to let it feel what you're feeling, let it pass. And, I always feel better once I let that emotion bubble up and come out. I don't try to suppress it. I just feel what I'm feeling, and then I move on, because I know it's going to be, most days it's low tide, and there's certain things that make it high tide, but I definitely want women to, hear what you're saying for sure. And also my thought is too, motherhood can be in all types of ways. I look at my role. I don't have kids, but I want to make sure every kid around me is exposed, has opportunities. I like to say I want to mother the community,
Right.
I want to be someone who they can look to. If they're in trouble and their mom's not around, they can come to me.
Right.
That kind of thing. So they know that they're safe and they're protected in that village mentality. So, if I never have any, I know that I still can contribute to some child's life and be a mother in that way. So
yeah, that's beautiful. That's beautiful. Oh, yay, Keisha.
So I want to shift gears a little bit and ask you this question that I ask all my guests when they come on. And that question is, if you take away your titles and your, everything around you, and it's just you there, who is Kontji Anthony?
This is a really serious question.
It's a tough question.
Oh my gosh. Me at my core, I just really am a person who looks out into the world, and when I see people, I want them to be the best version of themselves. And so I do what I can to help that along. And I just feel like, that is kind of a role I play with loved ones. And so I really think, like, at the core, it's just, I really want people to just be at their peak of what God intended, because we all have gifts, right? And so I like to help to bring out those gifts in people. It gives me a sense of satisfaction to just see when someone is shining. I'm just like, it's like I'm looking into the eyes of God, to see a person.
Yes.
Yeah. So I know there are haters out there who who see someone doing well and they hate it. Well, it's the exact opposite for me. Like, you ever see someone and you're like, I'm so proud of this person. I've never met you, but I'm proud of you. And, so even with strangers, I just want people to shine.
I see that too. That's part of what I do. I make people shine. So I do love to see people operating in their gifts and their talents and their abilities to the fullest. And then people that, oh my God, this is my favorite. So people who have taken advantage of a second chance in life. They may have been, they may have had an addiction, or they may have had, a hard time in life, and they've taken advantage and turned their life around. Those people are the people God uses the best. And when I look at them, it's like I can see God's glory.
Exactly. And it's just so moving. It's so moving to see God working through people. because he's working through all of us. We just have to let him, right?
Right. Well, Ms. Kontji, I have enjoyed you thoroughly, and I'm so glad that you came on. I want you to tell people where they can find you online.
Okay, at Kontji everywhere. So at Kontji on Instagram, at Kontji on Twitter, at Kontji on Facebook. And I don't really snap a lot, but I'm there too.
You have a website too.
Yeah, Kontji.com. See, and all those kids picking on me for my name being Kontji. Now, who has the website, huh?
Look, how you like her now?
How you like me now? Yeah, so, yeah, that's where you can find me.
Well, Kontji, I just love you so much.
I love you
and
too.
I thank you for being on my podcast.
Thank you.
This is like us for real.
I know.
This is us at brunch. This is us at wherever.
Yes. Yes. Thank you so much for letting me be part of this. Because, next thing I'm going to be like, I was on one of her first ones, okay? When she started out.
No, you're going to come back and again. So, yes, thank you.
All
and
right.
You guys check Kontji out. She's on WMC Action News 5 if you're in the Memphis area or the greater Memphis tri-state area. Kontji, I love you. Thank you. And you all, see you next week. Keep soaring. Thanks for listening to the Succeeding Over All Roadblocks Lifecast. Follow the show on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter at SOAR Lifecast for more tips and motivation. You can also email questions to soarlifecast@gmail.com. Be sure to catch new episodes every week and leave a review of the show. Until then, keep soaring.